We're live. This is Melinda from Hope When There Was None. I am joined by Vernon, who's going to share his story today. He just wrote a tell all book about healing type 2 diabetes naturally. And I can't wait to hear it. And I've read a little bit about your bio, but please share. I know there's a lot of people that really could benefit from this right now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for having me on, Miss Melinda. Again, my name is Vernon Davis. And a year and a half ago, summer of 2020, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And it was a very shocking moment to have hear those words expressed by the physicians that I saw on that day. What I had to realize is that there was a lifestyle that I lived that led up to that moment. And it didn't happen overnight. It happened over the course of 10, 15 years. And, it was tough to accept, but it was a reality. Prior to my diagnosis, I felt the height of the symptoms of type 2 diabetes, which was a frequent urination. It was a point in time where I was pulling over on the side of the interstate to relieve myself because I felt like my bladder was going to burst. I felt like I was going to wet my pants. I couldn't make it to the next exit to go to a convenience store to use the restroom, go to a restaurant to use the restroom, go to a hotel or any facilities in general. I had blurred vision in my left eye. That was very scary, but I had no explanation as to why, especially with wearing prescription glasses. I had a tingling in my fingers, tingling in my toes that, I just attributed to, keeping the house cold. I like it cold. I don't like to be hot. So, I just assumed it was because of that. I had headaches that I had never experienced before that were going on for about 5 or 6 months. I had different pains in my side, and my left leg would go numb at random times, even through the night while I was trying to sleep. It would just go numb, and I had no explanation for it. I had no explanation for the dry mouth that I always felt, but always drinking soda, juice, and a little bit of water, trying to quench my thirst. I couldn't explain why I was always thirsty. Couldn't explain why my mouth remained dry. But once I found out that I was a type 2 diabetic, and the doctor, attributed that to all the symptoms that I had been displaying that I made mention of, I felt like my world was coming to an end. I was very distraught. I was upset. I was frustrated. In the face of the doctor, I was holding back tears. I remember he prescribed me a particular medication and sent me on my way. He did make mention of, scaling back on some of the things that I ate. But to be sure to take the medication to be able to manage, what I had going on and, figure out a way to live with this disease, is, what he said. And so as I stepped out of the clinic that I was diagnosed, I remember going to the passenger side of my vehicle where I already had 5 drinks waiting for me. See, food
Wow.
and sugary drinks had a hold on me that I never knew about, or never realized rather, until after the fact, after being diagnosed and learning about what causes type 2 diabetes, how it was self-inflicted for me, and the changes that I need to make. And so in preparation for this doctor's appointment, I anticipated some bad news. Never would have anticipated type 2 diabetes being the verdict, but I anticipated some bad news nonetheless. And so, I stopped at a local convenience store before my doctor's appointment, and I purchased 5 drinks. 4 of them were fountain drinks. Of those 4, 2 of them were fruit punch, and the other 2 were sodas. And then the 5th drink was like a slushy or a Slurpee. And I wanted to have that ready for me to consume to soothe myself once I found out whatever bad news I was to receive. And so it was a mindset that I developed at a very early age, that food and sugary drinks for me was comfort, was soothing. When I found out bad news and I was going through stressful situations or in a stressful environment, or experiencing something that was not pleasurable, I can rely on food, soda, and juice to soothe me, to calm me down, to make me feel better, to help me through whatever it is that I was going through. And so fast forward to the tender age of 30, being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and realizing that what I had been consuming was the culprit. I made a decision that day to not drink soda or juice anymore. I took one sip of one of the fruit punch drinks, and I threw all 5 drinks away. Haven't had
Wow.
soda or juice since that day, but that wasn't enough. That was just a decision that I needed to make in the moment to get myself going. But there was so much more to do. So I'm sitting in my car and I'm crying. Haven't even left the parking lot yet, Miss Melinda. And I call my
Oh.
wife. I call my parents to let them know what's going on, what I found out, and they were sad for me. But at the end of the day, I had to realize I did this to myself. It was no one else's doing, and
Mm,
so I didn't want to go at this alone. And figuring out how to heal my body, what I determined very quickly was that I didn't want to use the prescription medication because of the side effects. I wanted
mm,
to give it a shot at healing my body naturally, but I had no idea how to do it. But that was just a goal that I set for myself. And so I gave a call to two friends that I felt like could assist me, and I was very fortunate that they were able to. One, great friend of mine, Mr. Tony Lee, is actually a personal trainer, and so he was my personal trainer, and he aided me in learning about how to move my body, how to get a good workout, honestly, from the comfort of my home. That
mm,
was a stipulation that I wasn't accepting of, but due to the pandemic, I really didn't have a choice.
oh,
And so, I worked out on my patio virtually on video chat, just like you and I are right now with Tony. And, it was very beneficial for me. The second phone call I made the day of my diagnosis was to a herbalist by the name of Breon Reed, also a great friend of mine who had just gone on a health transformational journey himself and acquired knowledge through research on natural herbs, sea vegetables, and the power of fruits and vegetables in healing the body naturally. And so I enlisted him as well for assistance. And he also became one of my accountability partners. He led me to begin my own research on natural herbs and on sea vegetables. And so I began taking a look at those, taking a look at herbalists from the past and the different decisions that they made, the different recommendations that they've made. And, I incorporated some of those into my regimen, in addition to eating within a certain time window of the day and eating certain foods. And it was challenging.
mm,
Every day had its challenges, and that's something that I had to realize very quickly. But having accountability partners in my wife, in my parents, my in-laws, my siblings, that was very helpful. But also having Tony and Breon, just a phone call away or a text message away to share with them what was going on, be it good or bad, and get feedback from them, to get
right.
encouragement from them, to get support from them was very helpful in me being able to push through plateaus, frustration, emotional moments, even when I fell off the wagon. I mean, there were times where I would purchase food from one of the popular delivery apps that I had no business purchasing. There was one day I purchased two very, very large hamburgers from Five Guys and a large fry, and it was all out of frustration because I felt like I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep it up. That I was going to fail at it, and so in that moment, figuring, hey, I'm gonna fail at this. Let me just go ahead and go back to what I know to soothe myself because I feel bad. And so I bought, those two burgers and that large fry, and I just remember sitting down at my desk eating on it and crying the entire time. And once I finished what I could consume, I threw the rest of it away. Got in contact with my accountability partners and let them know, what took place, where my head was at, and they didn't beat me
Right.
up about it. They were
Mm,
very encouraging, reminding me that setbacks are a part of the journey, and that they were there for me, that they will continue to be there for me to help me through, even those tough moments. And I think that was very pivotal in how I moved forward from that particular day. Fast forward 3 months after my original diagnosis, and I had some very encouraging news. See, Miss Melinda, on the day of my diagnosis, my A1C level was greater than 15.5. The
mm.
doctor said that that's the highest they could measure, so
Wow.
it was off the charts in a very negative way. My blood glucose level was 476, which was
Wow.
sky high. They actually recommended that I go to an emergency room once I departed from the clinic, and I decided not
Oh,
to because I didn't want any more bad news.
okay.
And so that was on the 24th of July of 2020. Well, fast forward the October 23rd. I'm back at a doctor's office getting my 3 month checkup, and man, my A1C level had dropped to 7.4. So more than 50% decrease, which was very, very encouraging. They didn't measure my blood glucose level that day, but I assumed that it was down as well because I felt better. The blurred vision had gone away. The tingle in my
Wow.
fingers and my toes had gone away. The numbness that I would experience in my left leg had gone away. The pain that I had in my side was decreasing, and it eventually went away. I come to find out that the pain that I was experiencing was a stage 1 kidney failure, which was very, very scary.
Whoa.
But thanks be to God that that's not a concern anymore either. My sleep pattern was much better. I had to force myself onto a sleep regimen. As I did my research, and concluded that sleep was going to be very, very instrumental in me being able to heal my body. And
Right.
being able to sleep soundly through the night was something that I had not experienced since before college. So we're
Mhm.
talking roughly 12
Wow.
years
That's a long
since
time.
I've been able to sleep soundly through the night, and to see that just changing the way I live my life, the foods that I ate, and the things that I drank, and the exercise regimen that I had was assistive in being able to sleep soundly through the night. It was mind blowing for me, but it was encouraging, and I just continued to push forward and stick to what I had learned through self research and the information that I was also getting from my two accountability partners. 2 months later, in December, I woke up and I was down 50 pounds on Christmas Day from my original
Wow.
diagnosis weight, which is also very encouraging. Hadn't been, it was 225 pounds. I hadn't been that small since before college. And so that was, that was awesome. Actually, I hadn't been that small since I moved to Virginia after college because I did go on a small health journey while I was in college for all the wrong reasons, and was able to get down to roughly 220. And then I moved to Virginia, and over the course of 9 years, I picked all that weight up and more. And was fortunate to be able to get it down as of Christmas of 2020. So it was very encouraging.
No.
But it's been a daily grind. Still learning new things roughly every week. I'm not gonna act like I learn something new every day, but roughly every week I learn something new. I've been able to incorporate different things into my regimen now.
Mhm.
I used to do fruit and vegetable smoothies that I made at home with frozen fruit. Now I've
Mhm.
switched to juicing after discovering the benefits of juicing, and as nasty as juiced vegetables are, they've been very, very instrumental in the progress that I've experienced over the last 6 months. And so I continue to do it because it's been working for me. Still consuming the sea vegetables that I learned about, and had a conviction about consuming, including various types of waters after doing my research on water. And now the goal is to maintain this lifestyle, and to assist others in adopting similar thought processes and learning how to teach themselves to heal themselves of not only type 2 diabetes but other chronic illnesses that are due to the foods that we eat and the lifestyles that we live. And then long term, my goal is to be able to assist the upcoming generations with preventing, at the very least, type 2 diabetes.
Wow, and your passion just shines through. What really stands out for me is just the encouragement you've had. You had those cheerleaders with you. That's awesome and amazing. And they didn't beat you up when you had that slip. And we all do. We have those moments where, yes, and I'm a comfort food girl, so I understand.
Yes,
Yes, and the
man.
side effects of the medication, I'm a Lyme warrior, so when the doctor's giving me a medication, he's still filling out. He's giving me 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of medication to counter one for the cure, another one for the side effects, and then there's another side effects for that one. So he's giving me all these prescriptions for side effects. Like, this is crazy. So I
Yeah.
did start that journey. I've got to get back on that wagon, but I know the benefits of juicing. And yes, some of those vegetables are not very pleasant to juice. Totally get that. I do. I do. I understand that. Yeah, but I do want to ask, are you going to have like a group or some sort of program? You mentioned you want to help people. Are you going to have something available in the future, like a
Yes,
Facebook group
ma'am.
or something? Mhm.
Great question. So, in addition to being fortunate to be on podcasts such as this one to spread information and share my story. I also am now a motivational speaker, aspiring to travel across the country to different youth, young adult based organizations, corporations, to be able to not only share my story, but also to lay out the outline of achieving success, enlisting accountability partners and self-education and some of the other principles that I've utilized in my own journey. In addition to that, on our company website, I am offering my time to be accountability partner for anyone with type 2 diabetes. And so we have the diabetes accountability partner program, where we have weekly conversations with whomever signs up. And, we just assist them on through their journey from wherever they are, understanding that everyone's in different places, but everyone has a goal. And as an accountability partner in life, we all want to see those that we are partners for achieve their goals and be a cheerleader for them. And so I am offering that service.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome. That is. And I'm glad you mentioned what the symptoms are because off the top of my head, I could think of excessive thirst and frequent urination. I didn't know about the other things, or I didn't know, maybe I just don't remember. So thank you for that. And I would, since you're male, I would have automatically just thought maybe it was something to do with your prostate. Prostate. Oh, you're a guy. That's normal. So I'm glad. I mean, was it you that just said, "Okay, this is just gotta stop," or something else is wrong that prompted you to go to the doctor?
Great question. No, ma'am, it had nothing to do with me. So, in all honesty, I had been avoiding the doctor for so long.
Oh,
Prior to receiving this news, I did go to a primary care physician about a year prior, prompted by my wife. I had no aspirations to go to a doctor prior to that. The doctor visits that I had over the course of roughly 8 years were
mm,
due to emergencies only. So I wanted to avoid the doctor as much as possible. And my mindset used to be there can't be a problem with me if I don't know about a problem with me. And the only way to find out about a
a lot
problem
of
is to
us
go
are
to a
like that.
professional that can
Right.
make a diagnosis. And so, I did go to a doctor in the fall of 2019 for a
Mhm.
checkup. It was more of an introduction than anything. And we actually set up an appointment for December of 2019 to get some blood work done. But I canceled that appointment. I believe it was to work overtime for my job, and it was just a good enough reason for me not to go. I was looking for a reason, and
Right.
then the pandemic hit. So that was December 2019. In January of 2020, I got the flu. So I went to
Mhm.
the doctor for that. I went to a clinic, and they gave me some kind of medication that like heat my body up to help me fight the type A flu, which I had no idea that there were two types. And
Mm.
shortly after that, we started working from home. And working from home, as fun as it was, it really hurt me a lot. Looking back on it, I had so much more access as far as time to the foods that me and my wife would purchase from the grocery store. And so I didn't have to
Ah,
worry about fitting a certain amount into a lunch pail to take to work. I had the whole pantry at my disposal, and my wife was, on site for her job. So I was home alone and had no one to tell me, hey, yeah, you probably shouldn't be having it right now since you had something else a few moments ago. So it was just a free for all for me as it relates to food. And so I
gotcha.
did pick up some weight. Not sure how much, because I didn't document it, but I know that my pant size went up from the January of 2020 up through July of 2020 because I was in a wedding. And so in that wedding, en route to the wedding, which is about 12 hours away, that's when I experienced pulling over on the side of the interstate to
Oh,
relieve myself. That was the first time that I had done that. Prior to that, I was working from home and I had the bathroom right around the corner. So, I didn't really pay attention to how often I was going to relieve myself. I just knew that I was drinking a lot of juice and soda, and, what goes in has to come out, is what I just kept telling
right.
myself. So it was no concern. But while we were on that trip to Michigan, actually, for our friend's wedding,
Mhm.
my wife, she noticed that frequent urination and the complaints that I had about what I was feeling, what I was experiencing. And she kept reminding me, hey, you have a doctor's appointment coming up, which I did.
Mhm.
for the end of July. And, it actually got canceled the day before, which I was very ecstatic about because I didn't want to go. And my
Right.
wife, she said, okay, well, your primary care physician canceled on you, but you're going to go somewhere. The symptoms that you've been displaying, they're scary for her.
Mm.
She's like, I know they're scary for you, and we need to know what's going on. And so she left it kind of open ended. Hey, let me know when you figure out what you're gonna do. And that was it. That was the end of the conversation. And so I had to find somewhere to go, and I was able to locate a clinic to go and get checked out. I informed her. I went, and that was my reason for going. It wasn't for my wife. I probably wouldn't be here today. And if I
Oh.
was, my quality of life would be very, very poor.
Oh, good lady, good lady. Yeah, we all need somebody like that in our life. Good lady. And also, is this something that runs in your family?
So not in my immediate family, no, ma'am. I had
Okay.
a
You should.
distant uncle that I've
Mm.
known to have had diabetes in general. Not sure if it was type 1 or type 2. And the only reason I
Mm.
knew he had diabetes is because he had both of his legs cut off, and he had
Oh.
some fingers that were cut off. And as a teenager,
Mm.
it was attributed to, oh, he has the sugars, and he was blind as well. And growing up,
Oh.
that's what we knew diabetes to be, the sugars. That's how I
Mhm.
was referred to in my hometown, and that was the only individual in my family that I've been aware of, over the course of 30 plus years, to have had diabetes. But again, he was a distant relative, and so
Okay.
outside of that, no one else in my family has had diabetes to my knowledge.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's a good thing then. That's a good thing. Oh. And how about your wife? She's just been alongside you, your cheerleader as well. So this dietary issues was no problem for both of you to make that transition. Well, for her to make that transition with you,
No,
or
no,
was
man,
she
she was
always a good
very,
eater?
very encouraging. Um,
Okay.
um, my, hmm, I'll make sure I answer that.
I'll put you on the spot.
Both me and my wife enjoy meat and potatoes.
Okay.
That's what we enjoyed. And so when I made the transition to switch up what I ate and how I ate, with her being the woman that she is, she decided to make the change with me.
Awesome.
And it was very helpful for me. And it was the majority of the time. I can't say it was all the time, but it was the majority of the time, which I was
Mhm.
so appreciative for, especially after maybe a long, stressful day. And I know, hey man, I gotta gotta prepare something. My wife would already be on it, preparing something that was healthy for me, that was going to be still beneficial for her, that tastes good, and that wasn't going to compromise, the progress that I have experiencing, the success that I have been experiencing, and the goal that I was en route to.
Oh, awesome. So are you totally off of meat then, and just
No,
going
no,
on
ma'am.
vegetables? Okay.
No, ma'am. So I'm not totally off meat. I do document why in my book.
Mhm.
We eat a very minimal meat, but we still consume some meat nonetheless. But my primary foods are fruits, vegetables, and natural herbs.
Awesome. So let's talk about your book. What prompted you to write it?
Great question. So it was really therapeutic for me to be able to sit down and find something to do other than playing video games, other than working excessive overtime for my job during this pandemic, where we're in the house way more than what we were maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I understood rather quickly through research that type 2 diabetes is something that's running rampant, not just in our country but in the world, and a lot of it is due to the lifestyle and the dietary decisions that people make, myself included. And so I took the experience that I had up to date. It was about 5 months, 4 or 5 months after my diagnosis, that I figured, hey, I'm going to start documenting this. And I said, hey, I'm sure others are experiencing this across the globe. And then when I looked at the statistics, roughly 34 million Americans as of 2018, 34 million Americans were diabetic. Of that, roughly 90%, so around 30 million, were type 2 diabetics. And then a portion of
Wow.
them were considered, not knowledgeable of being type 2 diabetic. And so, I figured, hey, I want to be able to reach the masses one day and share my story and let them know that there is hope. to not managing type 2 diabetes, not figuring out a way to live with it and go on, but to naturally reverse it, not having to depend on medications if someone chooses that they don't want to. I was a person that chose not to, and I'm sure there are others as well that don't want to deal with the side effects, that don't want to deal with constantly having to get prescriptions filled and keeping up with medications and the time needed to be able to take them each and every day. And so I said, hey, I'm just going to write a book. It was new territory for me. Never done it before. And, figured out the ins and outs of putting a story together, formatting it in such a way that it was easy to understand, but also enjoyable to read, to where it wasn't something that was just boring with information. But it could be, an opportunity for me to be very raw and vulnerable about what I had been going through, what I experienced over the course of roughly 15 months. From the date of diagnosis, and hoping that it gets in the hands of others that can benefit from the information. And so that's what prompted me to write the book. And just striving to push it and get it in the hands of as many diabetics, pre-diabetics that are out there to help them see that there is a way to reclaim your health.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And you have a publishing company too, as well.
Yes, ma'am. And that was something that we decided to do to publish our book. I was looking around for publishers, and what I found is that the different things that most publishing companies were going to do, I could do that myself and not have to pay a substantial amount of money up front to get it done. And so we already had an LLC, so just made a DBA for our LLC, Davis Family Publishing, and did everything that I needed to do to bring my book from a concept, a Microsoft Word document, to something tangible that can be shipped out to people across the globe.
Oh, awesome. So if anybody's interested, I do have a link here for that. Now, are you taking on any other projects from anybody else? If
Uh,
anybody was
so
interested?
yes, ma'am. Great question. So our publishing company is interested in being a home to new and current authors that have inspiring stories that they want to share with the masses.
Oh, wonderful. Great. And they can get in contact with you. I actually have all of Vernon's links in the comment section already. So rather than you fear anybody out there watching this furiously scribbling, don't worry about it. They're in the comments. All you have to do is click. And if you're listening to this in the podcast, I'll have that on the description notes for you too. Wow, this was phenomenal. Thank you. Thank you
Oh,
so
yes, ma'am.
much. It's definitely an inspiring story, and just for the power of us being able to take control. A lot of times it seems like we're kind of helpless, and for the medical community, that, like you said, we have to manage this disease. That is something I know I heard myself. We have to manage this, and I like that. You're taking that control. You're advocating for yourself, and you're taking accountability for that too. So I love that you did that. I really do. I love that you did that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. I know, with that, one of the things that I had to, realize is that, when professionals in general make a recommendation, be it a doctor, be it a mechanic, be it a home surveyor, what have you, when they make a recommendation about something for you, it's just that, it's a recommendation. What you choose to do, you have to live with the consequences or the rewards that come with it. And so, for me, I had to make a decision on, if something goes wrong, if something ends
Mhm.
up being displeasurable, if something ends up not working out for me, I don't want to be in a position where I'm pointing the blame at anyone other than the man in the mirror. And so I said, I'm going to
Mhm.
take responsibility. I am going to advocate for myself, and I'm going to do what I think is best. Regardless of my knowledge base and background or not, I'm going to do what I think is best for myself based on research, so that at the end of the day, I can only look to me and say, hey, man, if it goes bad, hey, this is a decision that you made. You got to live with it and figure out how to move around it, because I can be a bitter person. I can be someone that holds a grudge, and no need in putting myself in a position where I'm having ill feelings toward a professional that's just doing their job. And
Right.
and I had to accept that that was okay, for me to do, and it ended up working out for me.
Oh, Wonderful. Well, if you ever come to Indiana to speak, I'd love to know because I'd love to meet you in person in real life. Definitely.
Yes,
And I know
ma'am.
there's quite a few schools around here that I'm sure could benefit from that. So yes, 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 yes. Thank you. So I can't wait to see and how everything just unfolds for you because I know you're going to do fabulous work sharing and getting your message out. So Vernon, on that, I'm going to let you go for that. Again, if anybody wants to reach out to him, by all means, follow those links in the comment section. Thank you, Vernon.
Thank you, Miss Melinda.
All right, so we're going to end the broadcast on that. And thank you for whoever's watching this, tuning in. And please do us a favor, share Vernon's story. I'm sure there's someone out there that really needs to hear his words, his inspiring story, and to know that they can have that power within them to take back that power. And he's there to cheer you on if you're looking for somebody to have help with and information. So thanks again for tuning in. Mwah. Bye.